So in order to do that, we will go to project menu and then we will click on activities, and here we have the blank window. It does not have any activities, and let's say this is the only element in the WBS diagram, although you can have much more elements based on your needs, but we are currently just focusing on activities and scheduling part. So to add activities in your project, so we'll just click on this add sign, and you will see one activity has been added. Now it may be possible that you will see a small screen like a wizard, so you can just uncheck or maybe there is a check option to hide that screen, so that you don't need to go through that wizard every time you will add new activities. So straight away the activities will be added on the screen. So what we will do, we will add a couple of more activities. So we'll again click on this add button. So let's say we have here total 5 activities in our project. Alright, now once you add the new activities into your project, the next thing which you may want to do is to rename these activities. You may want to give them a proper name based on your project needs, and so again any name, but we'll just to make it simple, we'll just call them activity A, activity B, okay, and C, D, and activity E. Okay, so we have just renamed our activities. Once we have renamed our activities, the next thing that you may want to do is to give or allocate proper duration to each of these activities. Now again, the order or the sequence, it is not must. You don't have to do the things as per the same order, which means you can first give the duration and later on you can rename the activities. So once you have renamed your activities, the next thing we will do is to allocate them a proper duration. So in order to do that, we will click on status tab, and then we will select the activity for which we want to allocate the duration. So our activity A, for instance, will take 4 days. So we can just press type 4 and press enter, so it is automatically selected unit as days, which we can change from the settings. So it is 4 days for activity A. Activity B, for example, 6 days. Activity C, 4 days. Activity D, 6, and activity E, 2 days. So here we have the activities with their allocated duration. After the duration, the next thing that we may want to do is to give them the relationships, which means we need to define the predecessors and the successors for all of these activities, and that can be done if we click here on the relationships tab. Okay. Now one more thing before we continue is that you may not be able to see this relationship tab in some cases. So what you can do, you can just right click on this empty area and you can click here on customize activity details, and from the available tabs you can select and move the tab to the display tab. So you'll find on the left side the relationships tab, and once you will move it to the other side, so here you will have the relationship tabs. So this is what we need right now to define the relationships or to define the predecessor and the successors among all of the activities. So for example, the first activity we are going to have is activity A. So we will select activity A, and then we will define the successor for activity A. So after we have selected activity A, under the successor part we will click here on assign, and we will select activity B and we'll click on the assign button. So the successor of A is activity B. Okay. Then we can select activity B. So the successor of activity B would let's say it is C and D both. Okay, and then for activity C, the successor will be activity E, and for D, successor will be activity E as well. And for activity E, there is no successor because we are assuming this is the last activity. And we will just close this window here. So that is very simply, with a very small example, how we can have the predecessors and the successors. Okay, now there are different ways we can have these relationships. Now currently we are working on the table view. So here you can see we are working on table view. We have another view which is called the Gantt chart. So if we click here on the Gantt chart, so you can see some graphs, and you can see the relationships of all of your activities. Now this Gantt chart is mostly used for scheduling purpose, which we will see in some other video. Whereas we have another view, we can view our activities in another screen. So after the Gantt chart, we also have the activity network. So activity network means this is the project network diagram. So that is another way of looking into your activity. So this is what we defined just now. So the first activity is activity A, after that we have activity B, then we have activity D and C at the same time, and after both of these activities we have activity E. So again, now you can modify, or you can add or remove the relationships from this screen as well. So for example, if you have between activity A and B, so you can just select this arrow and you can press the delete button, so the relationship will be deleted between these two activities. And if you want to add the relationship again on any of the two activities, you can simply move the cursor at the end of activity A, press the mouse button and move this line towards activity B, and you will see the arrow will be completed, and then you can release the button. So you will see the relationship will be defined between the two activities. And why we have this different kind of arrow, if you select activity A and if you go to the successor, which means the successor of activity A is activity B, there is one thing which just change by itself, that is the relationship type. So we don't need this FF, which is the finish to finish. In fact, we need the relationship start to finish. Sorry, not the start to finish, finish to start. So which means you have to finish activity A and then you can start the other activity, which is the by default relationship. So we have 4 different type of relationships, which we will see in detail in some other video.